Our project for this module has two components. First, you're going to do some sketches. Think of an image that would be able to communicate depth, so something that goes back in space. Simple imagery, simple repeated shapes might work well. Draw it out and figure out how you want to include your images in a way that's going to convey depth. Use the entire picture plane so that you don't have dead areas. That doesn't mean that you have to fill every inch. You can have open space, you just don't want empty space. Once you've gotten your design down, then you're going to create an 8x10 painting that shows how you can modify intensity to communicate depth. You're going to have a monochromatic image. You're going to have a total of 5 different colors within that hue category, but they're going to vary a lot by intensity. Some really bright, some really dull. You want to show depth. You absolutely can use the other conventions like scale and overlapping. You can even use the other components of atmospheric perspective like value and temperature. But you want to make sure that the intensity of the color is doing most of the work. Here's an example of what not to do. First of all, is it monochromatic? No. Purple and blue are not the same. Also, you could argue pretty successfully that this color is no longer purple. It's gotten so red that I would call that a red-violet. So we actually have 3 colors in this analogous color scheme when we're only supposed to have 1 hue category for our monochromatic. Also, you want to keep it to 5 colors. Let us see how this person did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold up your hand. Count the fingers. How many fingers are on your hand? For most of you, the answer is going to be 5. When you get to 5 colors, stop. Even more problematic is this person isn't controlling their intensity, because while this is more purple than that, and overlapping and scale also tell me that this is in front of this one is more purple than this one. If I look just at this edge, which color comes forward? The more saturated purple here actually jumps in front of this one, but overlapping is telling me something else. So I get confused and I start to cry. It makes me very sad. Remember that while we are doing intensity, you also need to control all of the other aspects of atmospheric perspective. The red that is in this makes it so warm that when I look right at this line, even though this one is more purple than that one, because this one's not purple anymore, this one is so warm that it jumps in front when I'm looking just at this edge. So you got to make sure that it's monochromatic. And while you can have variations in temperature, you still want to make sure that they are conforming to the way in which you're creating your space. So basically, don't do this. What is it with art people who can't count? I mean, I realize we're not good with numbers because math is scary or something, but wow, that's way more than 5. And it's causing problems because you can see that their background color is actually way more intense than a good number of their actual shapes. So that we get to the point where instead of reading this circle as in front of and on top of the background, it actually looks like a hole that's cut into the background. Also, that's some bad paint application. I mean, you don't have to be an amazing painter, but wow, that's bad. If you're worried about how to apply the paint, for this project, once you've drawn it onto your canvas, work from back to front. Paint your whole background and then put stuff on top of it. Also, no, count to 5, which is what this person is trying to remind us. Sadly, though, we still have the this is warmer than this and therefore it comes forward more problem. Also, I'm not sure this is monochromatic because I think this is at least a blue-green, if not a straight-up blue. And therefore, in the context of this green composition, it's not going to be monochromatic. We got to control the intensity. That's actually even more important than your ability to count. Although seriously, you're in college now. You can count. These two look great, but are actually making a common mistake, which is that they are confusing value for intensity. Here you can see this definitely looks like it's closer to me than that, which is closer than that, which is closer than that. In fact, it works so well that I can break the vertical location rules because the scale and the overlapping and the color contrast is working great. But this is actually the exact opposite of what we're trying to do, because the most intense blue is the background, and then the blue gets weaker as it comes towards us. So why does it still communicate depth? Well, because the value contrast is so strong and in agreement with the scale and the overlapping that part of atmospheric perspective is still working. And so we understand that this is closer to us than that. This one is one square away from tricking me into thinking that this student actually understands how to control their intensity. But one square gives it away and shows me that what they're actually doing is manipulating value. Because if I look right here, this blue is so much stronger than this blue. And therefore, I can see that what they're doing is manipulating value. This intensity should be on top of that one. It just so happens that as they change the value going back, because of subtractive color mixing, it did lower its intensity. The second blue is stronger than the colors in the background. This is bluer than that, which is bluer than that, which is bluer than that, or that, or that. They can't count. What is it with count? This square, though, tells me that what they're doing is creating a value rather than an intensity pattern. These two have problems that are less with the color mixture and more with a couple of things that we want to talk about. Over here, we have one color that is existing in more than one space. The white here is supposed to be close to me, in the middle, and far away from me. But because it's the same color, it causes things to flatten out. Also, compositionally, there's a lot of empty space here. Maybe don't just line everything up in one big streak and have a bunch of empty dead space. Here, we have a student making a fairly common mistake, which is straight out of the tube, acrylic paint might dry so dark that it actually looks, once it's dry, less intense than a color that you might have diluted. If we look just at this green and this green and this green and this green, it's working pretty well. But the straight out of the tube green that she was using is so dark now that it actually looks like it drops back behind this if I look at the edge. Can this project be done? Yes. This is brighter than this, which is brighter than this, which is brighter than this. Yay. They still can't count. I am sad about that, but they're at least controlling their intensity more. Can it be done? Yes, it can. We can have a green bird that is closer to us, then goes back a little, and then goes back a little bit more, and goes back a little bit more. One thing that's interesting about this is that I don't feel like this space is as empty as some of the other ones. Partly, again, because of the convention of vertical location. I am used to there being more stuff in the bottom, so I think this composition winds up working a little bit better than this one. This one's controlling the color nicely, but you can see the problem of not painting in the background first. What you might want to do is mix your lowest, grayest, weakest intensity color and paint your whole canvas that, and then draw your assignment on top of that so that you don't have to try to get into these tiny little spaces. But that's just me. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just the teacher.